Have you ever walked through a city and just felt like something was missing? Like it didn't have a real identity? Well, today we're going to dig into why that is and how a new vision for urban planning is actually looking to the past to build a much, much better future. Let's get into it. Just take a look at the cover of the book that inspired this whole explainer. I mean, it captures this visual tension perfectly, which is at the heart of a huge debate going on in cities all across the Arab and Islamic world. On one side, you have this intricate, human-scaled architecture, and on the other, a modern skyline that, let's be honest, could be pretty much anywhere. And that contrast really makes you ask a pretty fundamental question. What is it that actually gives a city its identity? Its soul. Is it just the buildings? Or is it something deeper? Maybe it's the values of the people who live there, shaping the very space around them. To really get this new vision, we first have to understand the problem. And it's a problem a lot of people describe as living in a city with no soul. The core issue, as our source material explains it, is this deep identity crisis. That traditional character of these cities, something that evolved over centuries, is basically being erased, and it's leaving this kind of cultural vacuum in its place. And look, this isn't just some abstract academic debate. It has a real impact on people. Residents often feel this profound sense of alienation, of disconnection. They're living in places that don't really reflect their own culture or their history. And that leads to cities that just feel kind of lifeless and anonymous. So you have to ask, how did this even happen? Where did this disconnect come from? Well, the source points to a pretty specific cause, what it calls an alien blueprint. The main culprit, it seems, is the direct sort of copy-paste importation of modern Western planning theories. We're talking about glass and steel towers, 6-lane highways, all things designed for completely different societies, different climates, and different cultures. They just weren't built for the places they ended up. The source uses this really powerful metaphor for this process. It says this kind of planning plants foreign elements that are difficult to uproot. And that is such a crucial point. Urban planning isn't like changing a coat of paint, right? Once a highway is built or a neighborhood is designed a certain way, its effects are going to be felt for generations. Let's just break down how different these two approaches are. On one hand, the imported models. They prioritize cars over people. They separate where we live from where we work and where we hang out. They love standardized cookie-cutter designs. Now, that is a world away from traditional urbanism, which was all about walkable communities, integrated public spaces, and architecture that was scaled to actual human beings, not to machines. Okay, but this isn't just a story about what went wrong. It's actually a call for a whole new approach. So let's get to the solution, which isn't about turning back the clock, but about rediscovering some timeless guiding principles. Now, this is really, really important. The goal is not to just go out and build replicas of old cities. The source is super clear on this. That would be a huge mistake. Instead, the challenge is to rediscover the essence, what's called al-jawad in Arabic, the core values and wisdom of Islamic thought, and then figure out how to apply them to our modern world. So, how do you find this essence? Well, the key lies in a concept called maqasid al-sharia. And in simple terms, this just refers to the ultimate goals of Islamic principles. And when you get right down to it, these goals are all about one thing: preserving and promoting human well-being. Okay, that's a pretty lofty philosophical goal. So how do you turn that into an actual concrete planning strategy? Well, it's by focusing on a single, really powerful idea: planning to prevent harm. The source proposes a pretty radical new foundation for how we plan our cities, a principle called daf el-darar, which means preventing harm is prioritized over bringing benefit. I mean, just think about that for a second. It completely flips the script. Instead of asking, how much economic value can we squeeze out of this project, a planner's first question becomes, what potential harm could this cause, and how do we stop it before it starts? And preventing harm here means so much more than just physical safety. It's really about preserving the 5 essentials for human flourishing. So that means planning cities that actually encourage community and faith. It means protecting life with safe streets and healthy environments. It means securing property and privacy for everyone. It means creating spaces for intellect, libraries, cultural centers, and finally, it means supporting family and community bonds. So when you design a city with these goals front and center, you get something so much more than just a collection of efficient buildings and roads. You get a place that is fundamentally just, that is safe, and that is built for human connection.
Basically, you get a city with a soul. All right, this brings us to the final section, and it's all about what this means for the future. It's a vision for tomorrow.
Ultimately, the whole argument comes down to this. The past should not be treated like some rigid blueprint that you have to copy line for line. Instead, it should be used as a compass, a tool that gives us direction, that gives us wisdom, and provides those guiding principles to help us navigate the really complex challenges of the modern world. So that leaves us with one last thought. We've talked about a crisis of identity and a vision for the future that's rooted in these timeless principles. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to the choices we make. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. If you had the power, if you were the planner, what would your city's soul look like?